Shana tova.
Shana tova.
It is so good to be here with all of you, present in our physical sanctuary, present in our digital sanctuary. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I invite you to please rise if you are able. Please be seated. I lost my way. I forgot to call your name. The raw heartbeat against the world and the tears were for my lost victory. But you are here. You have always been here. The world is all forgetting and the heart is a rage of directions, but your name unifies the heart and the world is lifted into its place. Blessed is the one who waits in the traveler's heart for his turning. As we officially begin to welcome the new year of 5,783, we do so with the kindling of the candles of the new year of Rosh HaShanah. I invite Dr. Scott Levin and Amy Levin to... Oh, there you are. We're on page 11 in your machzor, in your prayer books.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Yom Tov. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shehecheyanu v'kiyemanu v'higianu lazman hazeh.
Our worship continues. Try that again. Our worship continues on page 15. I invite you to rise if you are able.
תקעו בחודש שופר, בכסל יום חגנו, כי חוק לישראל הוא משפט לאלוהי יעקב.
At the new moon, at the full moon. For our feast day, sound the shofar, for that is the law of Israel, the way of the God of Jacob.
Hallelujah, but take a shofar.
In your great mercy, help us, Adonai, to embrace your sacred gift of Rosh HaShanah in love and joy. May the holiness of this day bring fullness to our faith in you. Help us to gather all those scattered sparks of faith which are lost within ourselves, as your people Israel gather in congregations everywhere to praise your name this day.
Baruch atah Adonai. Shomea kol teruah amo Yisrael berachamim. Tekiah. Shivarim. Tekiah. Teruah. Tekiah.
Please be seated.
That sound, not the sound of my voice, but the sound of the shofar, has been compared to so many different things. It's been called an alarm clock, waking us up to the impact of our actions. Its broken sounds have been called a reflection of our broken hearts and spirits that are ready for healing. Its echoes are a reminder of the grand holiness that surrounds us and permeates our lives. It's even a tool of announcement, telling us the new year is here with all of its possibilities. In this moment, that shofar becomes the single voice that is present in our community. As we mark this new year, our prayers are communal. Our blessings are shared. Our strength is multiplied because we see that none of us is ever truly alone. And yet, we know none of this would happen if each one of us didn't show up with our full selves, speak out, and reach higher. Each of us holds the privilege of saying, Hineni, I am here. Each of our voices becomes that voice of the shofar, proclaiming, this is my voice, and it will lift up others. Hineni.
Hineni, here I am, Lord, standing before you, trembling and afraid, pleading with you on behalf of my people, Israel. Hear me, O Lord, I have come to your glorious presence with song. Hineni, am humble, my Lord. I am trying to be the best I can be. I am trying, my Lord. And it has not been easy, and yes, I have stumbled. Forgive me, O Lord. Hear me, O Lord. I have come to your glorious presence with song, for you gave me the voice. You gave me the voice, O Lord, to shout from the tops of the hills of your wondrous glory. The voice, you gave me the voice, O Lord, that I should be humble and quiet, my Lord, but in our broken and imperfect world, I cannot be quiet, I have to be loud. I want you to hear me and answer me. Hineni, here I am, Lord. I am one of your children, the daughter of sacred covenant. I have made you a promise to follow your ways, and I've honored it. Hear me, O Lord, I have come to your glorious presence with song. Hineni, I am grateful, my Lord, for your grace and your kindness, your mercy, compassion, and guidance, my Lord. You have led me to this very place where I stand, where I belong. Can you hear me, O Lord? I have come to your glorious presence with song, for you gave me the voice. You gave me the voice, O Lord, to shout from the tops of the hills of your wondrous glory. The voice, you gave me the voice, O Lord, that I should be humble and quiet, my Lord, but in our broken and imperfect world, I cannot be quiet, I have to be loud. I want you to hear me and answer me. That word hineni, to be present, to declare our presence, is such a strong word. It's even maybe a magical word to be able to say, I'm truly here. I'm here in this moment. I'm here in this year. I'm here and ready for whatever comes. I'm here to answer the call of the shofar. I'm here to answer the call of my soul. We answer all of those calls, our call to worship, with the word Baruch Hu. Page 20. Please rise if you are able. Page 25. At the top, we read responsively. Shema Yisrael, hear the voice of Hannah. There is no one holy as the Eternal. Truly, there is none beside you. There is no rock like our God.
Shema Yisrael, hear the call of Moses. Embrace and carry in your hearts this day, in heaven above, on earth below. Adonai is God, there is no one else.
Shema Yisrael, hear the word of the mystics. There is nothing but God. No place and no person is empty of God. The whole world is suffused with God's glory.
Hear, O Israel, God's hands are our hands. God's work is our work. God's voice speaks through us. God is one when we are one. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
You have stayed long enough in this place, God said. Time to go forward. Turn your face to the future. Believe that you can cross the sea and survive. Inside you is a Moses. Within you, Miriam dances unafraid. Lift up your voice and sing a new song.
בו כהים לפני משה ומרים. זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. ונאמר, כי פדה אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני. גאל ישראל.
Page 36.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom, Lishalom. V'ha'amitenu Shamirenu Lichayim, Lichayim. Ufros aleinu Sukkot Shlomecha, v'toginenu b'ezat tova milfanecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu Lishalom, Lishalom.
Darkness settles slowly across the horizon. The new year rises before us, its fragile moon awaiting our embrace. Heaven and earth entwine in their annual dance of recreation. A fissure appears in the firmament tonight, an entranceway into new beginnings. Out beyond the swalls, the sea expands and contracts, keeping time to the thrumming of the universe. Under this Rosh HaShanah sky, the path before us is uncertain. All we can do is hold each other tight as we make our way home.
Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
Every year during our high holiday services, we bring forward our tradition and our liturgy to help set the tone for the year. But tradition and liturgy are not enough. We must add our own voices, our own perspectives, our own selves to the new year. So this year, we've asked 4 amazing and wonderful women to reflect on a verse from Torah, where our matriarch, Sarah, prays to God, and God, Shema B'kolah, God hears her voice. Whereas our rich and meaningful tradition and liturgy often carry a male authorship, we must also Shema B'kolah. We must also listen to and discover the voices and the inspirations of the women in our community.
Where does my voice as a woman come from? I have often felt very lucky to have come from the family I did, though perhaps I glorify it more than it is reality. What is fact, though, is that my parents loved their kids. I am the youngest of 3 children and the only daughter. This was consequential because having 2 older brothers never presented me with the opportunity to be a girly girl, but to be a tomboy. My parents did not differentiate traditional male-female roles. We were all expected to share in the responsibilities of cleaning the house, washing the dishes, mowing the lawn, and using tools. Most importantly, my parents supported and almost insisted that I ask questions and speak up, just as my brothers did. From this, the lesson learned was that girls or women have an inner and outer voice which is as strong as a man's, and which must be used to question and advocate for ourselves and others. My parents strongly believed that everyone should have equal opportunities regardless of their race, culture, or nationality. My inner voice for moral and ethical development came from my parents, and my outer voice, my advocacy voice, to fight for and empower others whose voices either cannot or will not be heard, derives from the observed injustices and our Jewish tradition of tikkun olam. I am not endowed with the gift of prophecy as was our matriarch Sarah, but I am watchful and observant of the world around me, and with my voice have a call to action to try and correct injustices. L'Shana Tova.
You, Adonai, are my neshama, the eternal flame of my heart. I sit here, my mouth open wide in preparation for speaking your praise. Blessed are you, the one who was in relationship with my mothers and fathers. I am filled with awe as I draw closer to your majesty. Each droplet of rain, each sparkle of the evening stars reminds me of you, my infinite judge. With my breath, I pray to you, O Adonai. You are showing me your path, my eternal flame. Together we will walk onward toward holiness. We turn to our Amidah, beginning on page 42. Please rise if you are able.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Belohei Avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor V'Hanora El עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וכותבנו בספר החיים, למענך אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נובלים ברוב וחולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך מביט ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Please be seated. Page 66. As we prepare for this prayer for peace, I share a teaching of the Baal Shem Tov. It is impossible to tell people what they should take. For one, to serve God is by teachings. Another is by prayer. Another is by fasting. And still another is by eating. We should carefully observe which way our heart draws us, and then choose that way with all our strength.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך אנחנו וכל עמך בית ישראל ברוך אתה אדוני עושה שלום.
We invite you to take these next few moments for the prayers not necessarily found within our machzor, but the prayers that we each can find written in our hearts in this moment of silent reflection.
87 years ago, in 1935, something previously unthinkable happened. A 32-year-old woman who had spent the majority of her life immersing herself in Jewish learning, ritual, and community was privately ordained as a rabbi. Her name was Regina Jonas. She was born in Berlin. She died in Auschwitz. And her memory and her legacy have been nearly lost to history. When other rabbis were fleeing for their lives, Rabbi Jonas served in schools, in hospitals, and in synagogues. She worked along famed psychologist Viktor Frankl in Theresienstadt. She wrote copiously, and she fought daily for the Jewish people and her right to be called rabbi. Regina Jonas unknowingly set into motion so much of what we experience here tonight. Even though her life's work and her legacy have only recently been rediscovered, she broke through barriers that no one else had previously acknowledged, let alone challenged. She established a quiet precedent, one that let another passionate Jewish woman serve her community. 50 years ago, Sally Priesand became the first woman publicly ordained as a rabbi by our Reform movement, and she was accepted as rabbi by Jews and Jewish institutions around the world. Today, Rabbi Jonas and Rabbi Priesand are celebrated for following their passions, for overcoming obstacles, and for soaring above expectations. This year, of 5783, we celebrate the impact of those 50 years. And we recognize that women rabbis have had a hand in our movement and in our Jewish community. I especially recognize the shoulders of giants upon which I stand before you tonight. And yet, that precedence and that importance of women in Judaism is not a new idea. It's not a 50-year-old idea. It's not even an 87-year-old idea. It goes back to the very beginning. When God created the world and filled it with life and plants and living creatures, God's last act of creation was to create Adam, the first human. But even God could see, Lo tov lehiot adam levado, it is not good for man to be alone. And so God created an Ezer Kenegdo, a partner and a counterpart for Adam who eventually becomes known as Eve. In honor of Eve, in honor of Rabbi Jonas, in honor of Rabbi Priesand, Rabbi Cohen and I have decided to bring you a slightly different kind of sermon tonight. To learn the role of every Ezer Kenegdo, of every additional voice, of every alternative perspective, of every person and every gender. So maybe tonight's a little bit less of a sermon and a little bit more of a mutual interview. hopefully giving you only two perspectives to the same questions that we've been asking since the beginning, and hopefully sparking your conversations for the year to come. So Rabbi Jonas, Rabbi Cohen, oh, such honor. We Jews love to add commentary and midrash onto our Torah to try to understand it. And I wonder, do you have a favorite midrash, a favorite teaching about Ezer Kenegdo?
I do. Thank you for asking. I've always been struck by the fact that there are two very different accounts of the creation of the world, and certainly especially of the creation of the first humans. Right? In chapter 1, we read about that creation of the first humans being created all at once. And in the second chapter of Genesis, we actually read the story of how one human was created out of another human. And this other human was to be that Ezer Kenegdo. We don't have that phrase in the first creation story, only in the second. And as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about the same question: why is this? Why do we have two seemingly different accounts of the same creation story, of the creation of the first human beings? And why especially was, in the second story, was the second human being created out of the rib of the first human being? Why dafka that particular body part? Was there any special significance to that? And thinking about Ezer Kenegdo and what it is about, thinking about it as a balance, that it's a helper, it's somebody who's opposite, but essentially somebody who can help bring you into balance. And as I was looking at the different midrashim, I came across this beautiful poem of midrash, and it was written by Rabbi Lynn Gottlieb. And so, as our theme, Shema B'Kola, I decided to really listen differently to her voice. And she was responding to the first words uttered by that first human being, right? The first words uttered by the first human being after naming all of the animals. We don't get the voice of the first human saying the names until the creation of this second human. And we have a very poetic reading. In English, it's something like, "This one is bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh," and a very poetic account of this first encounter of one human being to another. And so Rabbi Gottlieb creates this midrash celebrating this creation story and really celebrating women and women's voices in the totality of the Hebrew Bible. The poem is called Awakening. Shekhinah gazed upon the sleeping form of he, she. I shall divide this being so he, she can find loving companionship like the other creatures in the garden. He, she lay asleep in the grass, curled up like a snake in the warm sun, dreaming of angels. Shekhinah thought, which part of the body shall I take to form the woman? Perhaps from the mouth, so she can tell stories like Sarah, the woman who smells of thyme. Perhaps from the eyes, so she sees the inside truth of things, like soft eyes woman Leah. Perhaps from the neck, so she walks with pride like the daughters of Zelophehad, who are Machla, Noach, Hagla, Milcah, and Tirzah. Perhaps the ears, so she hears my laughter, like sea-far woman Sarah. Or perhaps the heart, so she flows with tender mercies like soft-hearted woman Rachel. Perhaps the arms, so she heals and restores with touch like the Hebrew midwife women. Perhaps the legs, so she goes out seeking wisdom like truth-seeking woman Dinah. Perhaps from the flower of her passion, so she enjoys the fruits of her body like Shulamit. Then Shekhinah blessed every part of woman's body, saying, be pure of heart, and always know you are created in my image. Then she awoke, first woman.
You mentioned this second story, and almost the second woman becomes Eve, right? At first, there's there are the people created together in the first story, and then there's that story of the people created separately. And in that first story, as you know, the rabbis love to give that original first story woman a name. They call her Lilith, and the rabbis end up being kind of scared of her. They give her a really bad rap. But as we kind of learn more about Lilith, as we learn more about that place that women can have within the community, there's been this kind of surge of reinterpreting what Lilith can be. She's not just that adversary that kind of challenged Adam beyond his means. She becomes an ally for Eve and for women everywhere. And one of the midrashim that I have come to really like was written by Judith Plaskow, who's also a relatively famous woman in her own right, a theologian, and she rewrote that story of Lilith, and we were able to study this just a few months ago in our Strange Stories of Judaism class. So just a couple pieces, the ones that I really like from this. She writes, "In the beginning, the Lord God formed Adam and Lilith from the dust of the ground and breathed into their nostrils the breath of life. Created from the same source, both having been formed from the ground, they were equal in all ways. Adam, being a man, didn't like this situation, and he looked for ways to change it. He said, 'I'll have my figs now, Lilith,' ordering her to wait on him, and he tried to leave to her the daily tasks of life in the garden. But Lilith wasn't one to take any nonsense. And she picked herself up, uttered God's holy name, and flew away. 'Well now, Lord,' complained Adam, 'that uppity woman you sent me has gone and deserted me.'" The story goes on. God creates Eve. There's a redemption, I promise. One day, after many months of strange and disturbing thoughts, Eve, wandering around the edge of the garden, noticed a young apple tree that she and Adam had planted, and saw that one of its branches stretched over the garden wall. Spontaneously, she tried to climb it, and struggling to the top, she swung herself over the wall. She did not wander long on the other side before she met the one whom she had come to find, for Lilith was waiting. At first sight of her, Eve remembered the tales of Adam, who was frightened, but Lilith understood and greeted her kindly. "Who are you?" they asked each other. "What's your story?" And they sat and spoke of the past and then of the future. They talked for many hours, not once, but many times. They taught each other many things and told each other stories and laughed together and cried over and over till the bond of sisterhood grew between them.
So today, what does that mean to you, Shema B'Kola, to listen to her voice, to hear that female voice?
I think it means to do what this version of Lilith was doing, is to be that other voice, the balanced voice, the one that kind of sees things in ways that weren't previously thought of, and to bring a new perspective into the world. Not one that has to challenge, not one that says, my voice is more important than your voice, but to bring kind of that seesaw back into balance. It's not all just over here, it's also over here. And that female voice becomes the representative of the counterbalance that is so necessary in order to have those important conversations. What about you?
I think it's very similar. When we were first thinking about this, and I'm thinking about women's voices, and I remember very clearly an encounter that I had at Bangor Theological Seminary, where I studied when we served in Maine. And we were having a conversation. This was a part of an interfaith group. We were having a conversation about a particular idea and what each of our traditions brings to that idea. And as I was explaining or sharing the Jewish perspective on that idea, I used the phrase rule of thumb. And I used it as I've used it countless times, and I could see a kind of a shadow cast across the professor's face. She was very kind and took me aside afterwards and asked me if I knew what that phrase was, where it came from, the origin of rule of thumb. And I would venture to say that there are people here who do know and people here who don't. She did not assume that I knew and was using it as a club or as an aggressive piece. She pulled me aside and said, you know, Paul, rule of thumb is actually from British law. And it is a rule that a husband could beat his wife with a stick as long as it was no thicker than the width of his thumb. Right? Yeah, right? And I was stunned. I had no idea. And I was so grateful that my Ezer Kenegdo in that moment, the woman who was able to, in such a kind and gentle way, without assuming the worst, without canceling me out, saying, here, let me understand, do you know what that means? And that's, to me, what it is all about. Shema b'kolah, listening to that voice, that Ezer Kenegdo, that brings balance and helps make things better. Right? That's the goal, in making things better.
So as we approach this new year, and we're always looking to make things better, always looking to have 5783 be better than 5782. We have that potential. What does it mean this year to Shema b'kolah, to listen to her voice?
For me, it is about listening to the voices, particularly the voices that we don't hear enough from and are not always the voices that command the attention or draw the focus, and that are so important for us to understand in how we can pursue a better path together through generosity, through giving everyone that opportunity to have their voice heard, and to have it heard in a positive way, a way that enhances and doesn't detract, a way that brings forth blessing and doesn't cancel anything out.
I agree so much, and I hear that Shema b'kolah in that space of teaching us to use our voice, that so many of those unheard voices become learned quiet voices. They, for whatever reason, that some of those quiet voices have never had the opportunity to speak up and then don't know how to speak up later on. And so I think that as we, Shema b'kolah, it's kind of taking off those chains, taking off those burdens that kind of put a mute over so many mouths, and being able to hear the alternative perspective, the unheard perspective, those voices that do really have something to say, but either don't know how yet to speak or have others shouting so loud that we don't have a chance to hear them. And we both get this CCAR journal from our wonderful rabbinic institution of Reform rabbis, and the one that just came out is in honor of this 50th anniversary, and so it comes with an introduction by Rabbi Prezand. It comes with so many women's voices who have become such a cornerstone to our movement and to the way we kind of celebrate our Judaism in all of its voices. And I came across a poem from Rabbi Karen Kadar, who's now the Rabbi Emerita of BJBE, just down the street a little bit. And she wrote a poem in honor of this anniversary, but also in honor of what it truly means to Shema b'kolah. It's called The Reckoning. In the beginning, there was darkness and chaos, and you, dear God, hovered and swirled like a spirited wind upon the deep, calling us forth with the light of goodness. Emerge, dear sisters, arise, shine, for our light has dawned. We walk strong and sure through the thorny path of reckoning. We emerge from the shadows of nameless history, we who were not heard, silence and silent, not seen, veiled and sequestered, oppressed and underestimated, ignored and judged, invisible. Me too. Me too. We were born of the struggle, of the battle with the angels. Our name is struggle. We are brave and valiant, steadfast and loyal, insistent and persistent, gentle and compassionate. We are leaders. We are heroic. We are warriors, making history with our presence. We shatter the bonds of compliance and complacency. We are groundbreaking, breaking down barriers, breaking into forbidden places, breaking through ignorance. We broke it all, broke it into 1,000 shards of radiant holiness, sparks flying to heaven, sparks flying from heaven, transcending time and space, igniting the world with splendor. Run, dear one. Run wild and free. Run towards your destiny, for you are destined to be the faithful lover of the highest good. Blessed is the Holy One who envelops us in the beauty of the dawning of the light. Sing a new song unto God. Sing with voices strong. Sing in harmony. Sing in dissonance. Let the angels of truth be our heavenly choir. This is our jubilee. Truah, sound the shofar of freedom and sanctify the 50th year, proclaiming the liberty throughout the land. To be free, to be free. Blessed are you, O God, who has made me free. Hallelujah. May we all be free.
Amen.
Amen. Shana tova.
Shana tova. It is not a little ironic that we move from this Devar Torah to Avinu Malkeinu. And our tradition has been to, and now our machzor reflects, that we do not necessarily translate Avinu as our father and Malkeinu as our king. We leave it in the Hebrew to allow for each of us to think about God in the way that makes the most sense to us. To think about God as a loving parent, perhaps, a loving mother, a loving father, Malkeinu, a loving ruler, a king, a queen, or simply as God, who is a part of all, above all, within all. And so as we turn together to page 76, I invite you, if you're able, to please rise as we continue responsively in the English. And again, I invite you to think of God in the way that is most resonant for you. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, you alone are our sovereign.
Avinu Malkeinu, whose sake, show us mercy.
Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name.
Avinu Malkeinu, bring healing and wholeness to the ill among us.
Avinu Malkeinu, allay the harshness of the decree against us.
Avinu Malkeinu, inscribe us in the book of redemption and renewal.
Avinu Malkeinu, remember our goodness and call it to mind.
Avinu Malkeinu, act for your sake and save us.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the onslaught of sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu, halt the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love. Please be seated. To open eyes when others close them, to hear when others do not wish to listen, to look when others turn away, to seek to understand when others give up, to rouse oneself when others accept, to continue to struggle even when one is not the strongest, to cry out when others keep silent. To be a Jew, it is that. It is first of all that, and further, to live when others are dead, and to remember when others have forgotten.
Let the time not be distant, O God, when all shall turn to you in love. Please join us. When evil shall not take the place of goodness, when fear shall not enslave the mind, nor jealousy blind the eye. L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. Together we can heal the world. L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. We must all work together, 'cause we are all the children of Adonai. When all beings who are created in your image become one in spirit and in friendship, in the joy of belonging through your service, then shall your realm be established on earth. And until that day, let us say, L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. Together we can heal the world. L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. We must all work together, 'cause we are all the children of Adonai. L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. We can heal the world. L'takeinu olam b'malchut Shaddai. We must all work together, 'cause we are all the children of Adonai. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai melech al kol haaretz. Bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
Page 89. Our thoughts turn now to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days, those who died at the seas in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circle of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha. May their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. With thoughts of loved ones in our hearts and in our thoughts and in our prayers, we turn together to page 90 and rise as one family for Kaddish Yatom. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon uv'yomechon, uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, v'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudsha b'richu, le'ela ule'ela mikol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen.
Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru
May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and bring comfort to all who are bereaved among us. And together let us say,
Amen.
Please be seated.
Shana tova. It's wonderful to see all of you here. My name is Scott Levin, and I have the honor and privilege to serve as your Temple Jeremiah president. I continue to do so in this my third and final year with much gratitude. The past presidents and ongoing lay leadership of this incredible congregation have helped to build a Jewish community filled with meaningful connections. Our amazing clergy, led by Rabbi Cohen, and staff, led by Danny Glassman, continue to live and breathe with the thoughts of what might be best for our community each and every day. In my first year as president, I chose to speak with you about the power of stories, and that continues to be a passion in the professional, volunteer, and personal aspects of my life. Please continue to share your stories, and be sure to look at the ongoing Tell Us Your Story portions in the weekly e-newsletter and website. They are ongoing. Through this sharing, the connections we build can only become stronger and more meaningful. In my second year, I spoke about trauma, and specifically, trauma-based growth and trauma stewardship. In my primary line of work, directing a family medicine residency program in an under-resourced hospital serving the under-resourced west side of Chicago, I continue to bear witness to trauma all the time. People change course, take a new path, often a better path, and it is not unusual for a hardship, an illness, an adverse event, or even a traumatic one to be the precipitant. Trauma stewardship refers to being acutely aware of how much trauma might be upon us during a given time and managing it in order to remain effective in caring for others and for ourselves. So in this, my final opportunity to address you as president of Temple Jeremiah on Erev Rosh HaShanah, I wanted to choose my message very carefully. Mitch Albom, one of my favorite authors, writer of Tuesdays with Morrie, also wrote a book called Have a Little Faith. The title is in all lowercase, I think to emphasize the humility in this directive, and is also the spirit in which I want you to listen to my words. There is no single answer for everyone, nor a single answer for an individual at all times. Religion, faith, God, and congregational communities mean different things for each of us at different times. There is only the journey of our lives, our connections, our love, and our faith. Having said that, I have seen firsthand as a physician caring for patients over the last 30 years, and as a member of Temple Jeremiah's lay leadership, that each of us need to be anchored to a community, as they say, IRL, in real life. When the life cycle celebrations of birth, starting school, a B'nai Mitzvah, a confirmation, a milestone birthday, a wedding, and so on, come upon us, it is deeply meaningful to feel a connection with those in your corner, in real life. When the life cycle hardships come upon us, it is deeply comforting to feel a connection with those in your corner and to have a little faith. In Mitch Albom's book, there is a part where he learns that faith is about doing. The rituals, however we choose to follow them, bring about faith. You are how you act, not just how you believe, he says. The rabbi he learns from says, my grandparents did these things, my parents too. If I take the pattern and throw it out, what does that say about their lives or mine? From generation to generation, these rituals are how we remain connected. Lador Vador. In another section, he goes on to say, it is a rope for us all to grab up and down the mountain. And if it stretches to my grandchildren and to their grandchildren, then we are all, connected. There is one additional story from the book I would like to share. It is actually a Buddhist parable. A farmer wakes to find that his horse has run off. The neighbors say, too bad, such awful luck. The farmer says, maybe. The next day, the horse returns with a few other horses. The neighbors congratulate the farmer on his reversal of fortune. Maybe, the farmer says. When his son tries to ride one of the new horses, he breaks his leg, and the neighbors offer condolences. Maybe, says the farmer. And the next day, when army officials come to draft the son and don't take him because of his broken leg, everyone is happy. Maybe, the farmer says. Wouldn't it be wonderful at times to just surrender to the universe, as if a cork in the ocean? This is what Temple Jeremiah has meant to me as an adult, and what Temple Isaiah in Stony Brook, Long Island, New York, laid the groundwork for as a child. The rituals, the connections to generations past and future, and having a little faith can be very steadying. In our board of director and executive committee meetings, I have often asked a member, with advance notice of course, to speak for just a few minutes on their why, the reason behind their secret partnership and volunteerism. The reasons are always rooted in a purpose beyond themselves, a connection to something greater. This is what drove me to say yes when asked to be on the board, the executive committee, to serve as EVP and now president. Please take this time, Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur, our high holy day season, to reflect on how you can strengthen your reserves, to build those steadying forces, to feel a part of this community and others. You may not need it now, but you will, without question. Thank you to so many of you who have been doing this for years and continue to do so. Temple Jeremiah is only as strong as the people of its community and the commitment to that purpose. So as we enter the year 5783, please continue to share your stories with us and each other. Please consider the concepts of trauma-based growth and trauma stewardship as it relates to your own health, the health of your family, and the health of our Temple Jeremiah community. Help us to grow in new and even more meaningful ways, to connect in new and even more meaningful ways, and to be stronger than ever. And above all, have a little faith. Thank you for the honor, the privilege of serving as your Temple Jeremiah president. Shanah tova.
Shanah tova.
Speaking of faith, Rosh HaShanah continues in the morning, IRL, in real life, and on our YouTube stream. There are so many ways to welcome this new year, this being only the first way. And so we invite you to join us in the sanctuary at 10 o'clock or in our tent for our tot, teen, family, and inclusion services, or for Tashlich. There's so many things happening. Find all the times, all the locations on our website. And as you exit the building tonight, you'll see stacks of bags ready for our donations to the Ark, our Jewish food pantry. And we invite you to take a bag. There's a list of possible goodies and all sorts of things that you could donate, including those wonderful kosher symbols that the Ark requests. So you can take them as you leave tonight or any night before Simchat Torah and bring them either to the lobby or to the pod in our south parking lot, ready for donations, just waiting for you. And we invite you to leave the prayer books on your chairs so that when we come back into the sanctuary, IRL, they are ready to go at 10 o'clock in the morning. Please rise for our closing blessing. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu. May the God of our ancestors bless us in this new year of 5783. Bless us as we find our voice, as we listen to voices, as we hear the voice that calls us to become our best selves. May this year be a year that we find faith in each other, that we find faith in our community, and we find our strength together. May this year of 5783 be a year of goodness, of health, and of strength. Shana Tova.
Shana tova.